4:02. I'm assuming that everybody has read all of the minutes. I found two corrections, which I reported to Sid some time ago. It was, and she changed all the signatures for George to sign. So other than that, did anyone has any questions? I want to have one motion, and I'll read off all these, and we can accept all the minutes in one fell swoop, if that's okay, unless anyone wants to talk about a particular set of minutes.
I thought I remember something, and I'm looking for it right now. I had highlighted.
Okay.
So I'm looking for it right now.
We'll pull that one out.
Alan, this is Tom. I had one minor correction to, I've got to find which minutes it was. The Personnel Compensation Committee of May 20. It's really just a word or two.
What's the correction to be made?
It is under item number 2, salary increases of the executive director. And
let me get there. Okay, April 23rd, I'm sorry.
Next one, Alan.
May 20th, item 2, salary increases of the executive secretary. What should that be?
it reads, committee chairman Donito stated the item should be tabled until the full committee is present. Is committee the word or board? Because the next is motion to table until the board meeting.
That should be committee, because I wasn't there. That's a committee, and I think that's what John did. He wanted to get the whole committee together before you made a decision.
That was the personnel committee meeting.
Right, so there was an actual committee meeting subsequent to that.
At the very top. This
is the
personnel
board.
compensation.
Yeah, Juan and I were present.
Right. And these are the minutes for that personnel committee meeting.
Yep.
Only.
Tom, does that satisfy you?
The words still don't hold together because it says that the following motion seconded, etc., table item until the board meeting, as opposed to the next committee meeting.
Well, that was in anticipation of Alan showing up at the board meeting, and at which time we would have the same discussion and take the action at that time, bypassing the committee, a specific action by the committee.
And that makes sense. It's simply the way if everyone else is comfortable with it, I'll waive my concern there.
Okay. Anyone else have some? Juan, do you find what you were looking
related to that actually is in the, let me find out what's in the May 28th meeting of the board. And on the third page of those minutes, in item 13, non-union raises. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I may have just resolved my problem, so hold on a second. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have a problem. I was reading something incorrectly.
Okay.
Never mind. Never mind.
So we're all set. All right.
All set.
So I'm going to entertain a motion to approve the following sets of minutes. 220, all of 2020, 227 board meeting, 326 board meeting, 401 special board meeting, 423 board meeting, 423 personnel committee, 520 personnel committee, 528 annual meeting, 528 board meeting, 528 personnel committee, and 625 board meeting. Someone make that motion?
So approved.
A second? Okay, who moved it for the record?
I
I
did.
spoke, Tom Craig.
Okay, Tom did. Who seconded it?
Bill.
Bill, okay. All those in favor? We got to go around the horn here. John,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Juan,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Tom,
Yes,
and wait a minute, where Gina?
Yes.
Good. And Alan, yes, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Alan, just for the record, do you have to ask for public input?
I can do that. I'm sorry, is there any public input? Having heard none, we move on. Sorry that I missed that. Executive Director's Report.
Hello. Just an update on the Pawtucket Pipeline. We are out to bid for phase 1 as of today. The documents were posted on our website. So we are looking to have that returned to us and for board approval for the August meeting. So we're hoping we can get the contractor started on some work for later this fall, but there won't be a time to do an awful lot. Some sections of the construction have limited timeframes based on environmental factors and if the schools do open this fall. So most of the work will be done next year. Did have a discussion with the mayor of East Providence. He is trying to forward the discussion for the phase 2 pipeline to the city council. They also have some issues they want to discuss with the council on their existing pipeline and on their sewer rates. So they're going to try and get us in with the whole utility package, I guess. Meanwhile, they're having a problem with one of their drain valves off their transmission main, and they're looking to possibly use the emergency pump station, which they still don't own. So I asked them to sign a indemnity agreement for the use of the station, and all of a sudden they decided maybe it's time they took it over. So looks like when Joe gets time, he'll be working with their attorney to try and draw up documents to transfer the station to East Providence. That station, for those of you that don't know, was built when our pipeline was installed, the East Bay Pipeline. It was supposed to have been included in the state contribution of fees for the construction of the pipeline, and also for the fact that East Providence gave us right-of-ways without any charges or without any problems. We were supposed to turn over the pump station when the line was constructed, because it doesn't do us any good, really. It's for an emergency supply to East Providence off of our pipeline. At the time, the construction went above the estimates because we ended up having to drill and ended up in some problems. So it was felt at the time that East Providence should pay for part of that pump station. Well, they eventually filed a lawsuit saying we needed to turn it over to them per the contract, and nothing ever happened. So when I came in 2012, we started working on getting it transferred because we were responsible for maintaining it as long as we owned it. And so I just about had them talked into it after a couple of years, and then they had the station inspected. There were a couple of upgrades we needed to do. Everything was all set, and then they decided they didn't want it just now. So we said, well, we're not maintaining it any longer. So I just sent them part of the indemnity is that we are not responsible for the condition of that pump station. So it is what it is.
On Pawtucket Avenue?
Yes. Yeah, you may remember that one.
Yeah.
That was a long, drawn out process, but it looks like they're moving on that, so that'll be helpful. We also met with Beta this week on the next steps on the phase 2 design. We're going to meet again with the health department. I actually put in a request with them on the design. They gave a pretty extravagant requirements, I feel, for the last time we met with them. And now that the Providence Water is going to be adding phosphate to their water supply, and they just went through an extensive corrosion study, I feel we should be able to reduce the requirements of what were required for study for mixing the waters. So we're going to be working on that in the near future. They've also done some work on selection of routes. We've pretty much concluded that there's only one viable route that is the minimal impact with bridges and railroads in 195. So that looks like it'll probably be the best one to follow, but we want to sit down with East Providence and at least discuss that with them before we go much further. Other than that, we're in good shape for water purchases. We're considerably higher than normal for people staying home and doing gardens this year, it appears. And with the hot weather, people are still keeping up with their watering. So right now we're looking at fairly good income for this year. On the other hand, we just got word that the PUC will not be continuing their ban on, or the moratorium for termination of services for non-payment. So as of August 1st, we're going to start the processes. It'll probably go for a couple of months, but we're sending letters out to all of our delinquent customers at this point and just requesting that they please get in touch with us and sign up for a payment plan, because we will eventually be doing terminations. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible. We've reduced the amount of funds that we usually require to be set up a plan and to be to pay when they are turned off. So we realize that some customers have gotten in a little over their heads at this point, and we're trying to make it as easy for them as possible to pay on their water bill before it gets much worse. And on dam removals, we did meet with the DEM this week. There had been some discussion on the need for a specific plan that would change the classification of our water supply if we remove the dams. And it could have been a pretty extensive and expensive plan. Fortunately, they decided that probably isn't going to be necessary, but they do have an issue with the fact that the Bristol County Water Act requires the maintenance of those supplies. So they are concerned that the act is still in force and that we would need to have that changed before they will permit us the removal of the dams and essentially the removal of the reservoir. So Joe's also got that on his task list, and he'll be working on that. And we'll get our representatives involved and get that in as soon as we can. Joe will be talking about the Providence water rate filing in a little while.
Excuse me, I think that's another good point, because other agencies, as I understand it, other state agencies and federal agencies have been in support of our removal of those dams. And as a result of that, it's not just that we want to make the change because the state hasn't been living up to their part. It's because that's holding up a project for which we've been given some funds and grants. And there are a number of Save the Bay is in this, and a variety of people supporting this. So that's an added reason that we should present to when we make the case with our representatives and senators for passing that legislation as quickly as possible, not waiting until next March or next April.
That's right. And most of the environmental agencies any of the environmental agencies we've been working with are very supportive of the project.
Yeah.
Obviously, as the board, we discussed with the board, it's turning it back into a saltwater estuary, which could be one of the largest in the state. So it's very important to the environmental concerns. And in the future with possible recreation on the waterway as well. So the town is very enthusiastic in their support for us as well.
Well, to say nothing of which, without a treatment plant, the reservoir is useless to us.
That's the obvious.
And just as a, and
That's
just
the
to
obvious part.
mention, we started doing some studies on the reservoir in preparation of removing the dam, doing some water quality work. And we're finding that it's much worse than we had expected it to be. There's in the lower levels of the reservoir towards the bottom, there's no oxygen whatsoever, so there is no fish. The fish ladder, they're wondering why it wasn't more productive. Essentially, the fish can't live in the water. It's also highly saline at this point. Even, of course, the concentration lessens as you go upstream, but even upstream, we're finding salinity levels above drinking water standards. So we would not be able to use this reservoir unless we set up a desal plant.
We could use it for pickling.
And also, it's very, very shallow. Our guys have been taking the samples. They had to follow the old stream bed in order to get just down to 2 to 3 feet.
Wow.
Obviously, the northern part of the reservoir is only a foot deep. So there's really no water there. It looks impressive, but it's very shallow, and the water quality in that respect also is very poor. So even to the fact that we were able to use it as long as we did is a pretty high testament to our operation guys, that they were able to treat that water supply with the equipment that they had. It's pretty phenomenal. So, and then just one update on the demolition of the house. It's still waiting on a permit from the town of Bristol. I think they'll probably get it now towards the end of next week. And we believe the fire department is waiting until we're ready to do the demo. So they'll probably go in just before. And
Pam?
anyone has any questions on my report?
I do. Pam, when we started the discussion on the removal of the dams, there was a question, or that you were going to look into how many wells upstream from the dams were going to be possibly be affected. Was that ever resolved?
Yes, we did have that inspection done. They came up with, there's about 15 wells along the reservoir. They think there's probably 2 that could possibly be impacted, but the cost of doing those studies is over $15,000 each. So the plan is, we'll do some basic studies, but then if there's any impact on those wells, it would be much cheaper to replace them at that time. So we've discussed that with the DEM, and they seem to be satisfied with that.
Thank you.
Pam, I have a question. It's I'm out of order in terms of where you are, but the reference to 2 meter data collectors. Could you, in a sentence or 2, explain what that means? I think I know, but I don't like operating on the basis of an assumption.
Sure. They're actually like radio receivers out in the field that will collect the data from all of our meters that are within the range of that data collector. And then they pass it on to the central system here at the administration building. And that data can give real-time information to a customer. Eventually, when we have it fully operating, a customer can look up their account on our website and actually see how much water they've used over the past 24 hours, the past hour, at the same time.
Is the transmission from the data collector via the airway, wireless, or is that a hard line somewhere?
Nope, that's a cellular system. I believe, Mike, you have a little more detail?
Yeah, they have the capabilities for both via network or cellular. To start, we'll hardwire them all, and we'll utilize the commercial networks. The more remote, in order to improve our coverage, we may have to go cellular with those if we site them in locations where there's insufficient infrastructure to support them.
Okay, thanks. That's what I assume, but as I said, I don't like relying on an assumption.
No problem.
Any other questions about her report?
And then I have Sue and Mike's reports. Sue, did you want to provide an update?
I can just tell you that the job is progressing very well, or moving along, with Walsh doing the cleaning and lining work. They're finishing up the first wave of streets as far as getting them ready to be chlorinated and tested, and the people would then be switched over back to the existing water mains. So they're kind of in finishing up the first phase, and then after that, they'll set up the bypass piping for the second wave of streets, which include more streets in Warren and Hope Street in Bristol. So you'll start seeing the bypass piping along Hope Street and several other streets in downtown Warren. Everything seems to be going well. We did have one evening of nighttime work so that we wouldn't have to shut down businesses during the day. That went well as far as the work was completed, and we didn't have to turn the water off during the day. So that might get done one or two more evenings throughout the rest of the project in order to, just because in Warren the work really is downtown, and if we have a shutdown, it affects a dentist and, you know, restaurants and whatever. So, but just that went well, and it's progressing and moving along. We're hoping to still finish everything this calendar year, even though we started late.
Just one thing to interrupt. Joe, are you also on the phone at 2753?
What was that?
Joe Kia?
My what?
I have somebody that came up with JK at 2753.
No.
Who is that?
I'm not sure if you're referring to me. My name is Carissa Richard. I work at Providence Water. I was just wanted to listen to the meeting. I came over a while ago. I was put on hold though this time. So, but I'm just here
Welcome
to listen.
aboard.
Thank you.
No problem. Just want to put your name in and so your phone number doesn't show up.
Thank you.
Glad you're joining us.
Thank you.
Anyone questions about Randy's report? IT. Or Mike's report? Operations.
Mike, did you have any updates?
Not too much. We've been busy. Trying to incorporate and get all these projects done. Sue touched upon the nighttime shutdown. We'll coordinate a couple more of those to mitigate our impacts to the customers. And we're also real busy around the Hope Street property. So the remediation is complete around there. We're trying to coordinate training and eventual demolition. We're also coordinating an effort with the town-wide, the town of Bristol town-wide paving improvement project, where we're trying to get our assets off the road for the future pump station construction. So it's a significant undertaking that our staff is undertaking to get ourselves out of the right of way so that we don't need to interrupt the new constructed pavement. Aside from that, we're had some meter testing and just normal ongoing O&M supporting the project. I'm trying to keep that moving along. Everything's been going pretty well.
Excuse me, Mike, where do we stand right now with the meter replacement?
Percentage-wise, we're at about 90%. So we did hit a small delay with COVID. We have started that back up, and we hope everything proceeds smoothly going forward and we don't have any more COVID-related impacts come this fall or winter. But we are re-entering homes to pursue that 100%. And then with that, we are looking at deploying the gateways to maximize our coverage and the use of the future software available through Neptune.
Do we have many of the homes where the people don't want the unit inside the house and they're willing to put in a meter pit? That was an issue a year ago.
So we do have a, we do have a list. We do have some, we still have to resolve some. As far as the other issue that has come up recently has been COVID related non-entry requests. So we do have a couple of those that we're keeping in a list. Some of those are coincidental with the meter replacement project, as well as with our capital improvement project. So we're just documenting, cataloging, and ensuring that we follow up. But the current state of affairs have prevented us from moving forward on resolving a lot of those, but they are on our radar to correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mike?
Any other questions?
I have one more, Al.
Sure, John.
Do you have any time frame for putting in those PVC pipes with the fire department and police department?
So we hope to incorporate that. So we were kind of looking at how we were going to perform that. So Hope Street Tank has a lead remediation project associated with it. To complete that, and the Hope Street Pump Station project has some piping and communications associated with it. So we were unsure how we wanted to split that up, being that, you know, we're going to have a remediation contractor dealing with the lead contaminated soil. So should we mix in some infrastructure improvements, you know, a duct bank, like you're alluding to, and maybe some water supply piping to the new pump station. We decided not to do that, let the remediation guy perform the specialized work he does, and let the pump station contractor perform the specialized work he does. So we will capture all of the communications and piping as part of the pump station project, but what we will do is we will go in and we're actually going to put in clean corridors, areas where we'll propose that the duct bank and the piping will go, and it'll be pre-cleaned. We'll pre-excavate them and clean soil will they'll be delineated so that the next contractor going in does not have to deal with any contamination. But yeah, we will capture that as part of the pump station project.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, let's move on to Mark. Finance report. Brief for his own sake. Where is he?
I'm right here. I'm going to be very brief. I just got back from some extensive oral surgery, and I can't move my jaw too much. The June statements are just about finished. I should have them out, I hope, by tomorrow. I also have the quarterly pension reports detailed for the end of the pension year, June 30th. I'll get that out tomorrow as well. Just down the road, this is the time of year we bring in all of our special guests. In August, it looks like we'll have the audit firm in to go over the audit with an audit report. That'll be in August. The pension actuary for September, and then Washington Trust for their annual visit, October, November, somewhere in there. We'll get that done. Also, the actuary noticed that we needed to file a new restatement of our pension plan with the IRS, which is done every 10 years. And they're working on that now, and we have to file it by the end of July. And Alan, if you're around someday next week, I'll call you. You're going to have to sign it. There's no changes in the pension or whatever, but you have to file a restatement with the IRS every 10 years.
Understand.
They can review it. So I'll contact you when I have those documents next week.
Fair enough.
Okay. Other than that, if there are any questions on the financials when you get them or anything else, if you could email me rather than try to talk, because it gets painful after a while. I'm also on a liquid diet, but non-alcohol for 2 months.
Oh, boy.
That's a real sacrifice.
So I'll lose a few pounds probably, but anyway, that's my life right now. So
Understand. Thank you much. Let's go on to the purchase of meter data collectors. I think this is the item Tom was referring to earlier.
Yes, exactly. Our data collectors. We realized we had purchased a couple and had not had board approval. Thought they had been included in the original bid, but on second perusal, they were not. So I'm presenting it to the board to purchase perhaps up to 14 collectors. We're not exactly sure how many we're going to need. Probably at least 10, hopefully not more than 12, but I'm asking for approval up to 14 in an amount of $102,060. And so we can move forward on getting those installed. One thing I want to let the board know is we are purchasing all the accoutrements separately because we can purchase them at a less cost than purchasing it along with the data collectors, and we are doing most of the installations in-house. A couple of them will be put on tanks, and we'll actually have to pay the tank inspection company to install those for us, but the rest we will be doing predominantly in-house for significant savings.
Good. That's good. Any questions? Entertain a motion to buy. How do you want the Neptune? What are they specifically called? Data collectors?
Neptune AMI meter data collectors.
Okay, for up to 14 Neptune AMI data collectors at a cost not to exceed $102,060.
So move.
Move to approve, Gina.
Dina moved. A second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Yes, George.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, because the purchases were made without approval, whether or not there could be some sort of process or step put in place at the water company so that there's a check to make sure there's authorization before a purchase is made.
Usually we do that.
Yeah.
This one
I would
kind of
agree with
slipped
that.
by.
If there were some formal process, maybe that might be helpful going forward.
Well, we do have a PO system with Mark that we've set up a few years ago. And right, it should have been double checked before we had actually signed off on it.
Is there a dollar amount which would require it to go to the board?
Generally, anything over $5,000 is said requires a bid. At 10,000 in actuality, but for infrastructure. But yeah, we thought it was on the list with all the equipment when we purchased the meters, and it was. I took a quick look at it, and it was data transmitters, not data receivers. So it was an error in this case.
I did the math, and extending it to the 14 does come out to the number that you suggested in there. And my question is, you're purchasing the 10 at once, but you're opening it up to being able to buy 4 more. Is the company going to guarantee the same price for the next 4? Or?
Yes, we've got the proposal that keeps it in effect. Will be I don't know if we're buying all 10 at the same time. We've gotten a couple, and then we're going to be buying a few more and getting those installed as we move, and as we can see how the transmitters are working and what areas they need to be placed, then we'll be purchasing more of those. If they don't hold the price by the time we get to the last ones, then we'll have to come back for another approval.
Any other questions?
Question, this is Bob. How are we maintaining these? We send someone to school to maintain, or is it when upon failure, we just return it to the company?
And Mike can answer that one for you.
So these are essentially plug and play units. So one of the things based on our existing relationship with Neptune, one of the things we're talking about is actually having a spare, unwiring it and just replacing. And then at that point, we can send it back to the factory direct and not experience downtime. That will, based on what we've seen, be more cost effective than having technicians come out, troubleshooting, and trying to field service. The technicians from Neptune or their subsidiaries, the rates can add up. So remove and replace, something we can do in-house. We receive very competitive pricing on the units. So we feel that's the best strategy for long-term maintenance of the system.
Makes sense? Any other questions?
Is the system robust enough to notify you when there is a failure rapidly?
It should be. It should be lack of reads. These should start collecting data once deployed every few hours. And the meters themselves kick out error codes. So we can tag for certain alerts to come through based on the error codes available through the meters themselves, whether it's a leak warning, a reverse flow warning, or no flow. So there's a variety of flags that we could essentially have pop out to us. And we'll familiarize ourselves more because there is the system has to get accustomed to the, what they're finding throughout through deployments. You can't look at say a 24-hour period to see how well you're communicating. They're saying it breaks down to about 72 hours. You should read the whole system pretty well in a 72-hour period, and that's the best way to evaluate how well the system is performing.
So like Google knows everything about you, we're going to know if you take a shower or not.
Yeah.
Yes, we will see. It should break down per 15-minute interval. So middle of the night flows, long, slow leaks overnight, early morning irrigation, things of that nature should populate. And it'll be a great tool for the customer and customer service to communicate with the customer.
Gotcha. Any other questions, comments? Okay, let's vote. John?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Juan?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
Tom?
Yes.
Chris?
Aye.
Where's Gina?
Yes.
And Alan? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is the task order number 7. Okay, Pam, you're going to explain that? That's the interconnection.
Yes, this is to do an evaluation. It's a hydraulic evaluation between the two systems, East Providence and Bristol County Water, with the existing connections and also with the new 24-inch connection. The idea is we're looking to set up a operations agreement between our two utilities for different conditions under if we're using the water or East Providence is using the water, which way the water is traveling, what are the pressures, what are the flows, how will our customers be affected? So we had one done with the previous connection, which actually ended up working fairly well when we had to put it in place this last year. So we need one now for the 24-inch and to take a look at what happens under different circumstances. So PAR actually has the model both for Bristol County Water and East Providence's hydraulic models, so they can run both models together and provide us with that evaluation. There's a little bit of work involved in that. There's a lot of criteria they have to look at, so it's they're looking for $20,711. I think it's definitely worth it to have that information, but considering it also includes East Providence, I have asked them if they would be willing to pay half, which I have not had a response on yet. But I think either way, we need to go forward for our own information. So I'm asking
do you have any idea when they may discuss it and either say yes or no?
Well, I know they were looking at it this week. So
Okay.
they've, as I said, in conjunction with the fact that they've got an issue with their, a line coming off of their transmission main, so which is of a concern. Plus they're trying to set up meetings with the council. So I can't say for sure when or if, but I would recommend that we start the process, start moving forward.
Understand. Entertain a motion to approve this for the additional task order of
So moved.
$20,711.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Further discussion? Okay, John,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Ron,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Tom,
Yes.
Chris,
Aye.
Gina,
Yes.
and Alan, yes. I guess we do that quietly so that it's still open for their participation. Next item is the, oh yes, the union request. That was, we got a letter. I guess this is just a standard item. I wanted to make sure that that was on the board, on the agenda, so the board would be aware of this. I didn't want to do anything that would cause the union to have some way to say we're not cooperating. And so the letter was sent to a number of people. I was included with it, and they understand that we're waiting for them to make a proposal. When they're ready, we'll be ready as well.
And just to follow up, I did talk with our attorney and actually with the union president, and both said that it's pretty much a pro forma at this point, and they're not looking to start negotiations immediately. It's the time frame to start the notifications.
Fine. So it's for your information.
Can I just ask a question, John? Yeah. Will this be Joe Whalen handling it?
We've used him in the past.
Yeah, just wanted to.
Right. I guess the board will have to formally engage him for that purpose. He's not on retainer now, to my knowledge, or does he automatically handle things like that?
No, he is still on retainer.
Oh, okay.
It's until we decide otherwise.
Okay. For those of you who are relatively new, he has been the man who has negotiated the last, I guess, four contracts. Even he goes way back with us. A very effective labor lawyer. Okay, we're going into executive session to talk about Anawan Dam and litigation on the water rate filing. First one is pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42465A2, and the second one is 42465A2 as well. We will be returning after the executive session. So once we vote to do that, We will wipe out anybody who is not necessary to be at that meeting, and then we will return, keep them in the waiting room until we return back into our regular session. So all those in favor, starting with John,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Juan,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
Chris,
Aye.
Tom,
Yes.
Gina,
Yes.
and I, yes. And so we're entering executive session at 4:47. Items 10 and 11 are unnecessary to go into at this time.
You can just table those.
Okay, we can move to table. Motion to table.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Those in favor of tabling items 10 and 11, say aye. Yeah,
Aye.
raise your hand. Raise your hand. I can see you. Raise
Aye.
the hand. Gina,
Aye.
got it. So by hand and one phone, it's unanimous. Our next meeting is August 27th. Any further business? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Joe, you had a comment? You're just waving goodbye.
I was prematurely waving goodbye.
Okay.
He
Thanks,
can't wait to
everyone.
get out of here. Bye.
That's it. Understand it. Feel better, Mark.
Take care, Mark.
Okay, everybody, thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night.
Meeting ended at 5:17.